গোপীজন বল্লভ গিরিবরধারী, গোপীজন বল্লভ গিরিবরধারী, যশোদানন্দন ব্রজজন রঞ্জন, যশোদানন্দন ব্রজজন রঞ্জন, যমুনা তীর বনচারী, যমুনা তীর বনচারী, জয় রাধা মাধব কুঞ্জ বিহারী, জয় রাধা মাধব কুঞ্জ বিহারী, হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে, হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে, হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে, জয় রাধা গিরিধারী রাধে, জয় জগন্নাথ জগন্নাথ, জয় বলদেব জয় সুভদ্রা, জয় গৌর নিতাই গৌর নিতাই গৌর নিতাই, জয় গৌর নিতাই, জয় জয় প্রভুপাদ প্রভুপাদ, জয় জয় প্রভুপাদ, নিতাই গৌর হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল।
Hare Krishna, everybody. Today we'll first read from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and after that we'll recite and discuss shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm just sharing my screen so you can see it. Is the screen visible for everybody? Can everyone?
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna. News of Shami's move to the Bauri loft spread mostly by the word of mouth at the Paradox restaurant, and people began to come by in the evening to chant with him. The musical kirtans were especially popular on the Bauri, since the Swami's new congregation consisted mostly of local musicians and artists who responded more to the transcendental music than to the philosophy. Every morning he would hold a class on Srimad Bhagavatam attended by David Allen, Robert Nelson, and another boy, and occasionally he would teach cooking to whoever was interested. He was usually available for personal talks with any inquiring visitors or with his new roommate. Although Prabhupada and David each had a designated living area in the large loft, the entire place soon became dominated by the Prabhupada's preaching activities. Prabhupada and David got on well together, and at first Prabhupada considered David an aspiring disciple. April 27. He wrote to his friends in India describing his relationship with David Allen. He was attending my class at 72nd Street along with others, and when I experienced this theft case in my room, he invited me to his residence, so I am with him and training him. He has good prospect because already he has given up all bad habits. In this country, illicit connection with women, smoking, drinking, and eating meats are common affairs. Besides that, there are other bad habits like using only toilet paper and not bathing after evacuating, etc. But by my request, he has given up 90% of his old habits and he is chanting Mahamantra regularly. So I am giving him the chance and I think he is improving. Tomorrow, I have arranged for some prasadam distribution and he has got to purchase some things from the market. When David first came to the Bowery, he appeared like a clean-cut college student. He was 21, 6 feet tall, blue-eyed, handsome, and intelligent looking. Most of his new friends in New York were older and considered him a kid. David's family lived in East Lansing, Michigan, and his mother was paying $100 monthly to sublease the loft. Although he did not have much experience, he had read that a new realm of mind expansion was available through psychedelic drugs, and he was heading first into hazardous world of LSD. His meeting with the Swami came at a time of radical change and profoundly affected his life. Hare Krishna. So, today we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, and verse 56. The heading of this canto is creation of the fourth order, and the heading of this chapter, chanting of the songs by Lord Shiva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Srinnatam Shakata Krishna Punna Savana Kirtana Hridiyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunti shuhitshatam Nashto praesho abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtiti. Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So I'm sharing my screen. So everybody can see the screen now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Yatra nirvishta maranam kritanto nabhimannate Visham viddham shayam virya Shorja vishpurjita bhuva Yatra nivishta maranam kritanto nabhimannate Visham viddham shayam virya Shorja vishpurita bhuva Yatra nirvishtam aranam kritanto nabhimannate Visham viddham shayam virya Shorya vishpurita bhuva. Anybody wants to recite?
I'll go first. Yatra nirvishta maranam kritanto nabhimannate Vishwam viddham shayan virya Shurya vishpurjita bhuva. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else wants to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Madhavi, please.
Yatra nirvishitam aranam kritanto nabhimanyate Vishwam vidvam sayam virya Shaurya vishpurjita bhuva.
Thank you, Madhavi. Anyone else wants to? Okay, in that case, we're going to the synonyms. Can anyone wants to read the synonyms, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, oh, please.
Yatra, wherein, Nirvistam, Paranam, a completely surrendered soul, Krita Antaha, invincible time, Na Abhimanyate, does not go to attack, Vishwam, the entire universe, Vidhama, Vidhamsayan, by vanquishing, Virya, prowess, Sa- Sayurya, influence, Vispurjita, Vispurjita, simply by expansion, Bhruva, of the eyebrows.
Thank you, Prabhuji, thank you. Anyone wants to read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, ma'am.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Simply by expansion of his eyebrows, invincible time personified can immediately vanquish the entire universe. However, formidable time does not approach the devotee who has taken complete shelter at your lotus feet.
Hare Krishna, you can continue the purport also.
Okay, Prabhu. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 10:34, it is said that the Lord in the shape and form of death destroys all a person's possessions. Mrityu sarva haras chaham, I am all devouring death. The Lord is in the shape of death, takes away everything that is created by the conditioned soul. Everything in this material world is subject to perish in due course of time. However, all the strength of time cannot hamper the activities of a devotee. For a devotee takes complete shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. For this reason only is the devotee free from formidable time. All the activities of the karmis and jnanis, which have no touch of devotional service, are spoiled in due course of time. The material success of the karmis is destined to be destroyed. Similarly, the impersonal realization attained by the jnanis is also destroyed in the course of time. Aryuya Krishane Param Padam Tata Patanti Adho Nat Drita Yusmat Angraya. Bhagavatam 10:32. To say nothing of the karmis, the jnanis undergo severe austerities to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. But because they do not find the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down again into this material existence. Unless one is fully situated in unalloyed devotional service, there is no guarantee of liberation, even if one is elevated to the heavenly planets or to the impersonal Brahman effulgence. A devotee's achievement, however, is never lost by the influence of time. Even if a devotee cannot completely execute devotional service, in his next life he begins from the point where he left off. Such an opportunity is not given to the karmis and jnanis whose achievements are destroyed. The bhakta's achievement is never destroyed, for it goes on perpetually, be it complete or incomplete. This is the verdict of all Vedic literatures. Suchinam smritam gehe yoga brahastu bijyate. If one is unable to complete the process of bhakti yoga, he is given a chance in his next life to take birth in a pure family of devotees or in a rich family. In such families, a person can have a good opportunity to further progress in devotional service. When Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, was instructing his assistants, he told them not to approach the devotees. The devotees should be offered respect, he said, but do not go near them. Thus, the devotees of the Lord are not under the jurisdiction of Yamaraj. Yamaraj is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he controls the death of every living entity. Yet, he has nothing to do with the devotees. Simply by blinking his eyes, time personified can destroy the entire cosmic manifestation. But he has nothing to do with the devotee. In other words, devotional service which is rendered by the devotee in this lifetime can never be destroyed by time. Such spiritual assets remain unchanged, being beyond the influence of time.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. ॐ ज्ञानातिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं सद्वैतं सवधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त स्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले प्रभुपादानुगामि श्रीशुभभूषाम्ये सदा धन्यश्रीशुभागाय सर्वजीवकृपाब्धये गुरो शिक्षा सदाचार पालपाय नमस्ते। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशोतारिणे नमो महावदन्नाय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमो मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं। Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to you all in this morning class of Srimad Bhagavatam. Although I am not qualified and I am doing this service as I have been instructed to undertake this service, and it is an opportunity for me to purify myself. So I beg you all, the devotees here, for your mercy to please bless me so that I can glorify the Supreme Lord Krishna properly. Now, a brief background of this topic. I mean, we know we are reciting the verse we have recited. It is part of the Rudra Gita, and the background is like that. When all the Prachetas, or the 10 sons of Prachin Borhi, they seriously accepted the words of their father, heart and soul, and they keep that words in their heads. They went westward and found a lake, and where they met Lord Shiva, and they paid their obeisances. And there is a great description in the previous verses. There is a great description of the lakes, and very purified lake, and the birds were there. The entire surrounding was orderly, and musical sound was there, and Lord Shiva emerged from the lake, and the Prachetas, finding them, paid their obeisances, and the Lord Shiva was also pleased, and he blessed them, and Lord Shiva is now praying to the Lord. And this verse we have recited today is part of that Rudra Gita, and the present verse is part of the Rudra Gita, as I have told, and it is the content of this verse is like that. As we have seen, it is telling that Lord, Supreme Lord, in the shape of death, takes away everything. I mean, everything that is created by the conditioned soul, and everything in this material world is subject to perish in course of time. However, that happens for the material people. But however, all the strength of time that takes away everything cannot hamper the activities of a devotee. So the sharp difference between a material activities of a material nature and the activities of devotional service, or what happens to the devotees. So in this material world, as we see, and it is mentioned in the Shastra also, this material world, another name of this material world is called Morto Loko. Morto means subject to destruction or death. This means that everything in this material world will be destroyed one day. by the laws of material nature. By everything, by that, either it is living or non-living, doesn't matter. Even living beings will die, and it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, verse 27, that Jatasho hi dhruvam mrityu dhruvam dharma mritushacha. Every living being who is born will die one day. And it is dhruva means it is certain to happen. So no one can escape that. In a similar way, all the non-living things will also be destroyed during the annihilation or the proloy time. So, in other words, everything will be destroyed one way or the other. Living beings will die one day, because whenever a person is born, the death is sure to happen one day, and that will happen for the immaterial things as well. And as we know, if anyone tries to avoid this death in a material world, he cannot do that. We know the story of Hiranyakashipu. He has a boon from Lord Brahma, and he tried in an indirect way, when Brahma has told him that he cannot offer it, the immortality to him. The material world, no one is mortal, so he cannot offer it to him. Even Lord Brahma told that I am also subject to death, so I cannot offer you that. But Hiranyakashipu tried in a different way, and he made to loop all the holes. He wants to close all the loopholes so that he can become immortal, but he couldn't do that. That is a separate story. We're not going to that. Everyone knows it. What I mean by that, no one, however powerful he is, and Hiranyakashipu was so powerful at the time, even the devatas were afraid of him, but he was not successful even to prevent the course of death that is destined to come by the laws of material nature. But some other people think that this is the law of material nature, but material nature is not independent. Material nature is controlled by the Lord. And in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 9 and verse 10, Sri Krishna has told to Arjuna, Maya dhakshena prakriti shuote shacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagad vipurihote. That means this material nature is one of his energies and is working under his direction. And that's why he's telling all moving and non-moving things under its rule is manifested, created and annihilated again and again because of the Lord. Lord is behind the screen. It is clearly stated here, the Supreme Lord, that he is aloof from the material activities. Lord is transcendental, and he never takes part in his material activities. But at the same time, it is not that he's aloof from that. He's aloof directly, he's not doing anything, but anything that is happening in this material world is happening under the direction of the Lord. And the Supreme Lord Krishna is the supreme will, and he remains in the background, and the material manifestation takes place under the management of the material laws of nature. So without the superintendence of the Lord, material nature, Supreme Lord is Krishna, material nature cannot do anything of its own. And so Krishna is another way, is also, as mentioned in the Purport, Krishna in the form of time destroys everything in this material world. So it is in fact Krishna's order that death comes, and death is nothing but a form of Krishna. And everyone has to meet Krishna in some way or the other. And what happens for a devotee? A devotee is always rendering devotion. A devotee is intelligent. He is always rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, and he remains associated with him through his activities, and he is connected by the Lord every moment, and is remembering him. And he sometimes wants to see the beautiful face of the Lord, and in his heart, he wants to enjoy serving the Lord. And after leaving, that is why, because he is always connected to the Lord reciprocates it, as is mentioned that a devotee when devatas or the demigods worship the demigods, they go to their god, to their planets. But the devotees of the Lord, Supreme Lord, goes to his abode when he leave his material body. But while a devotee does not want to, a non-devotee, the case is different. He doesn't want to see the Lord. He wants to, while he is alive in the material world, he wants to take credit. His activities, he thinks that he is the owner and he is the enjoyer of his activities, and so he does not want to see the Lord. For a non-devotee, I'm talking about. But what happens to him at the time of his death, as we have just explained, that death is inevitable for all living beings. So for a non-devotee, Krishna comes in the form of death for him. So in one way or the other, one has to face Krishna, because death is another form of Krishna. Death is in course of time comes to as in the form of death. Krishna comes to him. So no one can escape the Krishna in any way. And being a marginal energy of the Lord, the Supreme Lord has got infinite number of energies, but broadly we can categorize them in three main categories: the internal energy, Antaranga Shakti, the marginal energy, or the external energy. The material nature is the external energy of the Lord. And of course, within this material nature, again, there are two things. There are marginal energies, the living beings, and also those who are non-living beings are also there. So in a marginal energy, every living being is a marginal energy. That means it is in between. It is neither the internal energy of the Lord nor the external energy, total separated energy of the Lord. But it is marginal. Because it is marginal, so we have to take shelter either in the form of internal energy or the energy of the Lord, or maybe under the influence of the Maya or the external energy of the Lord. So in any way, we cannot keep ourselves aloof from these two, because we are in the margin. We have got a material body. So inside the material body, there is a soul, which is as good as the Lord which is transcendental. The soul is transcendental, but the body is material. But we have to take shelter in any of the things. So the devotees of the Lord who are intelligent, they take shelter of the Lord. But most of the other people who are in the ignorance, as far as transcendental knowledge is concerned, they remain in the material level, and accordingly they have to face death in a very cruel manner. So we have got this taking shelter, either the material energy or the external or internal energy of the Lord. It is our choice, because the Lord has our Lord has given us this choice as a free will, that because our soul is constitutionally transcendental, and a devotee remains under the influence of a devotee always try to remain under taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, wants to transcend his transcendental material nature and wants to remain with the internal energy of the Lord, tries to. But there are other people, some may also realize, like those who are also transcendental, but they try to merge with the Lord. That is a different thing. They do not take shelter fully on the Lord. Although they are transcendentalist, they do not take shelter of the Lord fully. And they want to merge with the Lord. But the pure devotees of the Lord who are fully realized, they take shelter fully on the Lord. And thus everyone is satisfied according to the degree of surrender. The Lord reciprocates it. That's why in Bhagavad Gita 4.11 it is mentioned that ye yatha mam prapaddante tam stataiva bhajanham mama vartano vartante manusha partha sarvasha. That means to the extent one surrenders to the Lord, he reward them accordingly. And everyone has to follow his path, the Krishna's path in all respect. That means no one can escape the influence of influence of Krishna. But some people knowingly thinking that they are independent, they have not the proper knowledge. But those who have got it, they surrender to the Lord. They are intelligent devotees. Now, and in the material world, Krishna rewards all devotees equally according to their different intensities. They love him. In the material world, there is a reciprocation of feelings also there. Equally exchange, Lord reciprocates with different devotees of different transcendental people in a different way. Both here in the transcendental world also, the Lord reciprocates his those who are in the transcendental abode of the Lord. They also reciprocates. The Lord also reciprocates with them. Now the question is, as we have told, some people under the being ignorant of the laws of or the of the knowledge of Krishna, they think that they are independent and they try to behave that way. But the material nature is so strong and so powerful, no one can escape it. And as a result of which, whatever the activity, because of the three modes of material nature, a person is under the influence of material nature, he gets a material body, and he acts according to that, according to his Sattva, Raja, and Tama, these three gunas. And the spirit soul who are bewildered, they do not know that material he is acting under the influence of the material nature, he is not acting independently. And it is very clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 3:27, Prakrite kriya manani gunoi karmani sarvasha ahankaram vimudatta kartaham iti mannate. The spirit soul is bewildered by the influence of false ego, and he thinks that he is the doer of activities. But in actually, it is carried out by the three modes of material nature. And if there are two persons, one devotee in the Krishna consciousness, another in the material consciousness, working in the same level, it may appear that they are working on the same platform, but there is a gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in the material consciousness is convinced by his false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that mechanism of the body that he has got, and the body he is produced is product of the material nature, and he is working. He works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord because of the body and everything he has got. Is a creation. Is working under the order of the Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. He doesn't know that. That is his ignorance. But a devotee, the situation is a bit different. A devotee wants to remain under the protection of the Lord because he knows that the Lord is the ultimate controller of everything. So, and his constitutional position is to serve the Lord. And in this way, he remains in the right position. And all the activity, and he is in the proper consciousness of that. And whoever is not under the influence of without the proper knowledge, they are working, the non-devotees, Krishna put them in that situation, and they work under the influence of Maya. There are also other type of transcendentalists like Gyanis and the impersonalists, and Dhyana yogis or the meditators and other bhaktas of the world. They have also partial knowledge of Krishna, and their knowledge about Krishna is partial, and Krishna also reciprocates with them accordingly. Whatever they do, the Krishna rewards them accordingly. Now the question is now the third point, that is the point that has been mentioned in the second part of the verse, that time it doesn't hamper the activities of a devotee, because the devotees are wise people in the sense because they are fully surrendered to Krishna and follow the right path of serving the Lord. They know the relation. What is the relation between, because he is dependent on Krishna, and Krishna is the master and he is the servant. and he reciprocates it as a servant and master relationship. And there are, of course, different stages of that also. The Lord is the controller, and we are being controlled. And another thing is that the devotee is not attached to material things. It may appear a bit strange for some people that devotees are not attached to things. Means what? Are we not using the material things? We are using it, but we are not attached to it. We are using it. We are using it as and when it is required, but we are not attached like the material people. So the loss of material things does not affect a pure devotee. We are talking of a pure devotee, not and who are at the beginning stage. He's not even, and in one sense, he is not even attached to his material own body, and because he knows, he has the knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, it is Arjuna is telling, Arjuna is being told by Lord Krishna in 2:16 that Nashato vidyata bhavo na bhavo vidyata shato uvayorapi dishtavantasto anayos tattadoshivi. That means those who have seen the truth have concluded that the non-existent, the body is immaterial body, so it will get non-existent one day. The devotee knows this. So there is no endurance. So devotee does not want to use it in an unnatural way to extend the life of the body, or artificially temper the requirements of the body, which the non-devotees does, because he knows that it is being carried out by the force of material nature. And we can give an example on that. I think when we are not, the difference between an attachment and non-attachment of the material body by a devotee and non-devotee, we can give the example of between a hired cab. Suppose we are going from one place to another, and we have hired a cab, and suppose in the middle of the road, the cab has some fault has developed in the cab. So as a rider of that cab, what we'll do, we'll pay the person was or the from which we have hired the cab, we'll pay the driver that one, and we'll try to arrange another thing. But we are not worried about what has happened. But if it, on the contrary, if it is our own car, then if all the agonist comes, oh, where will we find a mechanic? What will happen to me? What is the level of the petrol at this level? And can we go to my destination with this? So, in other words, we are worried so many other things if we take the ownership of a thing. In a similar way, the body is, the devotee uses his body for the service of the Lord, but he knows the laws of material nature is acting on the body, and he accordingly decides what he has to do and how he can take best advantage of this body and all that. Unlike a devotee who is too much attached to the body and the bodily relationship, bodily possessions, everything he is too much attached. And just like he is too much attached to his name, he is too much attached to his fame, too much attached to his money, and too much attached to bodily beauty, too much attachment for the bodily family he has got, and too much attached to the followers or the supporters he has got. All this he is attached. So what I mean to say, they are too much attached to the body and its relationship with others. Whereas a devotee knows the body is the product of the material nature, and one day it will go. But we have to use the body, and according to this, and we should use it for the service of the Lord. If we do for the service of the Lord, then that is the best way it is being utilized. So this is the difference between devotee, and in this way, even if the material body one day goes, the death also is the consciousness of death, or the situation of death, is also different for a devotee and non-devotee. And the devotional service that we render to the Supreme Lord, that is never destroyed. That is never destroyed. And there is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, in various places it is mentioned. And first we can start with 240, where it is clearly mentioned and where it is stated that even a small devotional service that is done is never neha vikramanashosti praptavayu no vidyate shalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatomaya. That means a transcendental engagement and or transcendentally engaged activities is an auspicious activity and does not mean destruction neither in this world nor in the spiritual world. And it remains in the credit of the person. And in this material world, whatever we do, if we cannot complete a thing, the effort that we have given and the endeavor we have put into it all goes into waste. And give an example, you can say, suppose one has admitted in college to take a degree. He has completed a 1 or 2 year like that, and he could not finish it. And so in the next life, he cannot get it. Then I have completed the first year of that, and can I be admitted in second year? No, we cannot get that. But in transcendental activity, that is not there. When one, whatever small activity one or what activity one has done in this life, it is stored for it. He starts his next life from there itself. And it happens, and in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, I think 640, 642, Arjuna has asked him when he was discussing about the yoga, a person is engaged in transcendental activity. Arjuna has asked Lord Sri Krishna a very pertinent question. Well, you were telling that transcendental activity is good, so but what happens to a person who starts the activities and cannot complete it? So he could not. Arjuna put it in a very, very appropriate way. What the most of the materialist people want to know. He told him that it is a good, there's good activity, but if one starts transcendental activity or devotional service and he could not complete it, then he has lost. He could not enjoy materially. He could not he could not achieve the final results of his transcendental activities activities also. So he lost everything. It appears like that. But Lord Sri Krishna in verse 640, he clearly states, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Parto noibeho namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana pri paschid durgoting tat vachati. He's telling, the Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna that a transcendental activity, a person engaged in auspicious transcendental activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. And he has given us very specific example. Lord has subsequent in the later words of it, he is very clearly told that he has divided the activities of a devotional who has done devotional service in two categories. One who has rendered service for a small time, and one who has tendered service for a very, very long time, but still he was not successful. And what happens to them? He explains them in 41, 42, 43, 44. So we are briefly telling that one. The unsuccessful yogis, the Lord is telling that the unsuccessful, in 641 it says, Prapyo punno kritan lokan uchitta shashvati shama shuchinam simotam dehe yogo bhrashto vijayate. That is, an unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people, into a family of rich aristocracy. That means after they do that, they go to a punnalok, just which for normal who renders karma, that is karma conduct people do for life and wants to go there, but an unsuccessful yogi automatically goes there. And what happens after this punya? He enjoys in the result of his punya karma, that means devotional service, he comes back into a family of a rich and aristocratic. Why rich and aristocratic people? It is said in verse 44. By virtue of his divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles. And even without seeking them, such an inquisitive transcendental stands always above the ritual principles. That means he's an elevated already because of his past activity, and he starts this activity. He is given the opportunity in this life also, another life, next life he gets. That means his activity is not destroyed. In a similar way, or the person who has done transcendental activity or devotional service for a long time, Atava yoginam kule, it is in 642 it says, Atava yoginam eva kule bhavuti dimotam etabdhi durlabhataram loke janma jadidrisham. I mean, or after long practice of yoga, if he takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great wisdom, and certainly such a birth is rare in the world, and he takes birth in a great family of not only he is so much advanced and he gets so much opportunity that in next life, on taking a birth in 43 it is stated that on taking birth he revives his divine consciousness of the previous life, and he and again tries to make further progress in order to achieve the complete success. That means the Lord, in other words, non-devotees who are fully engaged in occupational duty, they may not get anything in their things, but a devotee who has rendered devotional service, whether small or great more, he is rewarded by the Lord. So, and the results of that is never destroyed. And in fact, Krishna consciousness one can repeat also very, very quickly if he is free from the sinful activity. If one is free from sinful activities, the path of Krishna consciousness is very rapid. And when a material activity is there, we have explained that it comes under the influence of the material nature, it gets destroyed. But transcendental activity is never destroyed. And even Jamaraj, the last part of it, if we look at it, I think it is still, Prabhupada is told, when Jamaraj, the superintendent, was instructing his assistant, he told them not to approach the devotees. The devotees should be offered respect, to say. That means the activities of Yamaraj, which Prabhupada has explained that the Jamaraj is aware, he is a representative of the Lord. He is doing his activity under the instruction of the Supreme Lord. So he knows what is the instruction of the Lord. So he perfectly does it, and it doesn't affect a devotee, because the activities of a transcendental, activities of devotional service is not material. So its result is never material. In this way, we can find that the transcendental activity that is done by a devotee for the service of the Supreme Lord is never lost in any way. Now, one can ask again, if the death is so certain, death is so sure in this material world, so in a gross, in a materialistic person, he may put this question like that a devotee is dying and non-devotee is also dying. So what is the purpose of, what is the result of your doing devotional activity? Because he will die one day also. But of course, he doesn't know that. But even for him, for a person who is in the material level also, he can be told in this way. They do not understand the difference. And Prabhupada once asked this question. Prabhupada replied. I'm just repeating that one here. The foolish people may say that they're dying. What is the difference? And Prabhupada told, yes, there is a difference. The difference of feeling at the time of death. And it is exemplified by everyone. I think some of the people may know it, and who do not know, I'm just, as a matter of reference here, I think it is very relevant to explain it here. And it is just like the cat who catches a mouse and catches his cub. When they catch both of them in their mouth, but there is a difference in feeling, the pleasure and the death knell that their mouse their face. The cub is feeling pleasure and feeling secure, because the cub is feeling, my mother is carrying me, I'm secure and I'm safe. He has no worries. But just apparently he is in the mouth of its mother, and And the other way, the mouse is, the cub is on the mouth of his mother. But in the case of a mouse, he is in the mouth of a cat, and he knows that I'm going to die. So, and it is a death knell for the mouse. So there is a difference, wide difference between the devotee and non-devotee dying in the same condition. Although they die, but the mental consciousness is altogether different. The devotee is sure that the Lord will protect him and he will be saved and he will go to the abode of the Lord. Even Jamraja will not approach him. But for a non-devotee, the Jamraj will approach and he has to face the consequence of his sinful activities and he will be tried there. So this is the difference. Or in other words, the activities of transcendental nature is never destroyed. And although in this material world, all material things will go, but the devotional service and the devotees of the Lord, whatever service they render to the Lord, it is never destroyed and it remains unaffected under the material condition of life. So with that, I'm concluding. And just to conclude, just before that, just summarizing what I have told. In the material world, everyone has to die one day, but Lord Krishna is the death in the form of time, and he kills everybody. In course of time, everybody will be killed in the material world. And the time doesn't hamper the activities of devotees. And they've also explained the difference in the consciousness on the death of a devotee versus the death of a non-devotee. And with this, I'm concluding. If anyone has got any questions, any realization, or any comments to make, please make. I'm happy to hear from all of you. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to make any comments or any opinion on this regard?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Madhuri. Dandot Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, very nice summary you've given of this verse and the importance of how devotional services never perishes, and beautiful example of, not example, but rather explanation on how the purport part where Srila Prabhupada explains Yamraj's conversation. So very nicely you have scrutinized from Bhagavad Gita, different verses and explained it. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhuri. So it appears there is no other any questions. So I'm concluding the class.
Thank you.
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
His Grace Abhay Charan Das ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.